2025 has turned out to be an absolutely incredible year for games, and that's despite GTA 6 being delayed out of it. When I look back on this year, the thing that really sticks out to me is not only how many great games we got, but also how diverse they were across different genres. I mean, we got great RPGs, great roguelikes, great platformers, and especially some really great indies. So with this video, I want to celebrate my 10 favorite games that came out this year. As always, this is a personal list, and the fact that everyone's lists are unique is what I think makes this fun. Also, I'm just one person, so as much as I'd have liked to, I haven't played everything that's come out. So if something seems like it's missing, that's probably why. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. Here are my top 10 favorite games of 2025. Dispatch is a game that really caught me by surprise. Not because I hadn't heard of it or because it came out of nowhere, but more so because I wasn't particularly hyped for it. I like interactive storytelling games, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I love them. Despite that, Dispatch really hit for me, and I'm so glad I gave it a chance. What makes it work is the quality of its writing and animation. Interactive storytelling lives or dies on whether you actually care about the characters and choices, and Dispatch nails that. The voice acting is phenomenal, the animation and art style give it this distinct personality, and the whole thing just feels extremely polished and well executed. The actual dispatching minigame, where you're dispatching heroes out for tasks between story beats, is surprisingly engaging and addictive. And the way it weaves into the story only reinforces the connection you build with the characters. This is one of those rare games that I feel like I can recommend to anyone and feel confident that they'll have a good time and enjoy it. Okay, on to the next one. Monster Hunter Wilds is such a complicated game for me to talk about. I'm a huge Monster Hunter fan. I've played every game since Freedom Unite on the PSP, and coming into 2025, this was my most hyped game, even ahead of GTA 6. And while I have some serious gripes with the game, I've still put hundreds of hours into it and for the most part have had a great time. On one hand, the moment-to-moment combat is the best it's ever been in the series. The combat feels more fluid and responsive than ever before, and the new monsters are all fantastic. If we're judging purely on gameplay fundamentals, this is peak Monster Hunter. On the other hand, there's the technical issues and some design decisions that I didn't agree with. Fortunately for me, I've played on the PS5 Pro, so I've had a generally positive experience on the performance front. But I'm still not the biggest fan of the art style, muted color palette, and half-committed open world structure that doesn't really work. And they put a lot of budget into making the story more cinematic than any other Monster Hunter game, but it still kind of fell flat to me. But despite all of those criticisms, the core gameplay loop, hunting monsters, crafting gear, perfecting your builds, is still one of the best in all of gaming. And the combat system is still probably my favorite of any action game. When it's at its best, Monster Hunter Wilds is some of the most fun I've had with gaming this year, especially when you're playing with friends. But let's move on to the next game on the list. Mario Kart World is a game that I'm going to be playing for years, and I know that every time I play it, I'm going to have a great time. It's simultaneously what you'd expect from a Mario Kart game, but at the same time has so much more. At its core, the actual racing feels as good as ever with tight controls and fantastic maps. But the game has so much depth beyond that with a surprisingly high skill ceiling. And you can't talk about Mario Kart World without talking about its music. It might be one of my favorite soundtracks in a game ever. It genuinely feels like a celebration of the entire Mario franchise. That alone may have made it worthy of being on this list. I do wish that the free roam mode had a little bit more structure. I feel like it gets stale a bit too quickly for my taste. Even a super thin story mode that gave players more incentive to drive around would have helped a ton in my opinion. And I know the $80 price tag left a bad taste, which I agree is a bit steep. But as far as the actual game goes, I've had a blast playing it, and I'd easily recommend it to any Switch 2 owner. Alright, moving on. Split Fiction consistently blew my mind with the creativity of its level design. and as a co-op adventure, the asymmetric platforming and problem solving makes it unlike any other game that I've played this year. I was a huge fan of It Takes Two, and I thought it was the deserving Game of the Year winner in 2021. So I was hyped for Split Fiction coming into the year. And for the most part, I think it largely delivered on what I was looking for. Hazelight Studios has really carved out this niche in co-op platforming where they're basically operating on a different level than anyone else. The platforming, controls, and level design in this game are as good as they come. Some of the levels in this game ooze more creativity than any game that I've played this year. I think I like It Takes Two slightly more, but Split Fiction is pretty damn close, and both are easy recommendations for anyone looking for a co-op adventure. Hazelight really has mastered the mechanics of co-op design in a way that feels like they're writing the playbook for everyone else. But as good as the platforming was in this game, I think the next game does it just slightly better. Donkey Kong Bonanza is the DK game I've always wanted. The 2D platformers are great, but I've been waiting for a fully fledged modern 3D platformer in the vein of Mario Odyssey for years, and this delivered everything I wanted. This is Nintendo firing on all cylinders when it comes to 3D platformer design. The levels are great, the controls are tight, and above all else, the game just prioritizes fun with its design. Jumping, running, and punching through levels with DK is every bit as satisfying as it sounds. I do think Mario Odyssey has better levels and platforming, but DK Bonanza has so much personality and charm that I can't fault anyone for liking it more. I also really enjoyed the music in this game, and the callbacks to the older Donkey Kong games. DK Bonanza is a game that showcases Nintendo's unique ability for making games that are fun for literally anyone who picks up the controller. Easy recommendation for every Switch 2 owner. Okay, let's move on to the next game. Hades 2 is a fascinating case study in how we evaluate sequels. In my opinion, it's literally better than Hades 1 in almost every way. More content, more refined systems, better balancing, deeper build variety, and yet I don't feel like it's gotten the same amount of love as Hades 1. I actually made a whole video about this, but the short version is this. Hades 2 suffers from being more Hades in a time where people are constantly looking for the next new thing. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, it perfects it. But I get that that's not as captivating as something new and shiny. Hades 1 is one of my favorite games ever, and Hades 2 takes that foundation and builds on it in really meaningful ways. The two-path structure keeps runs feeling fresh, the hex system adds depth to combat, the writing and voice acting are still phenomenal, the art is gorgeous, and of course, it's still as addicting as ever. In a normal year, this would probably be higher on my list. The fact that there are still games ahead of it speaks to just how good 2025 was. This is still one of the best roguelikes ever made, and if you have any interest in the genre, it's a definite must-play. But there's another roguelike on this list that I haven't talked about yet. We'll get to that later, but for now, here's the next game on the list. Death Stranding 2 was probably the hardest game for me to rank on this list. At one point while playing it, I seriously considered putting it at number 1. That's how much I love certain aspects of this game. From a technical standpoint, this might be the best looking video game that I've ever played on a console, especially on the PS5 Pro. The Decima engine feels like actual magic. Everything from the environmental detail to the character animations look incredible. And from a gameplay standpoint, they addressed many of the complaints of the first game. There's more sandbox-style action, more tools to play with, more variety in how you approach traversal and combat. From a pure design perspective, this is an objectively better game. But here's where it gets complicated for me. I just think the first game's story and themes resonated with me more deeply. The way Death Stranding 1 explored its characters and the ending in particular was so powerful. The sequel is more ambitious, more polished, more refined, but it just didn't resonate with me in the same way as the first one. But I say that as more of a testament to the first game rather than to diminish this one. This is still an incredible game and an absolute journey from start to finish. And the music in this game is fantastic, like so good that you're going to add it to your playlists. The fact that I'm ranking it 4th speaks more to how strong this year was than any flaw with Death Stranding 2. Alright, on to the next game. Playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 evoked feelings in me that I haven't felt since I played The Witcher 3 for the first time or Skyrim for the first time. As a huge fan of RPGs, I don't say this lightly, but this one is special. The early hours are brutally unforgiving, your character starts from absolutely nothing and you have to figure everything out through trial and error. But then you slowly make progress, and you actually feel that growth reflected in your character and the world. NPCs treat you differently, combat that felt impossible becomes manageable, the systems that seemed overwhelming start to click. It's one of the most satisfying progression curves that I've ever experienced in an RPG. I think one of the things that great open world RPGs do well is that they craft a world that you can immerse yourself in, and KCD2 absolutely delivers on that front. On top of that, the quests are engaging, the writing is sharp, and the RPG systems have real depth. I'll be honest, this may not be the most approachable RPG, but if you're willing to meet this game on its own terms, you're going to experience one of the best RPGs ever made. Alright, moving on to the next game. Blueprints is one of the best games of this entire generation, full stop. If you haven't played this game, I can't even begin to express the experience that you're missing out on. Blueprints is such a hard game to describe because it doesn't neatly fit into a simple box. It's a roguelike, puzzle, mystery, first-person adventure game, but those labels don't really capture what makes it special. You start the game with a simple premise: to find the secret 46th room of the Mount Holly estate in order to claim your inheritance. But every time you think you've figured this game out, it peels back another layer of the onion and there's more than meets the eye. The core gameplay revolves around a roguelike loop where you explore the estate, opening rooms each with their own effects. But the way the clues and mysteries are masterfully weaved into this roguelike loop makes for one of the most captivating, addicting, and rewarding gaming experiences that I've ever had. Seriously, if it weren't for the #1 game on this list, this would easily be my game of the year. That's how much I love it. This is probably my favorite roguelike game I've ever played. Not necessarily because it has the best roguelike mechanics, but because of how it utilizes the fundamentals of the genre with everything else it offers. I cannot recommend this game enough. It's one of those games you play and then can't stop thinking about. If you haven't experienced it yet, you need to. I made a whole video dedicated to this game, so check it out if you're interested. But with that being said, let's move on to number 1. You probably just heard me gush about Blueprints and wondered how it's not number 1. The answer is simple. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 came out this year. I know a lot of people are experiencing some fatigue with this game right now, but as you can tell by it being number 1 on my list, I think it absolutely deserved everything it won. You see, one of the reasons that I love gaming so much is because of how unique of a medium it is to communicate complex stories and messages. With games, you're not just listening or watching a story being told to you, you're actively experiencing them. And Expedition 33 does that masterfully with its characters, world, music, gameplay, and story. In my opinion, everything in this game is pretty much a 10 out of 10 across the board. And as a fan of JRPGs, I love how much this game celebrates classic JRPGs and Final Fantasy style games, while simultaneously maintaining its own voice. I believe this game is a masterpiece. Years from now, I think we're going to look back at Expedition 33 as one of those generational titles that serves as an inspiration for many new games moving forward. In that sense, I think it's fair to say that this truly is a game for those who come after. And those were my top 10 favorite games of the year. It's going to be one I remember forever, and not just because of the games. It's also the year I started posting more consistently to this channel. I've loved talking about games, sharing my thoughts, and hearing from all of you. I know I'm still a small channel, but seeing the support and comments over the past few months has meant everything. If you've subscribed, watched a video, or left a comment, Thank you so much. And if you're new here, welcome. I'd love for you to join the small community growing with this channel. Aside from that, let me know what your top 10 games were this year in the comments. With that, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.